Okay, we are taking a look at the Sanremo YOU, but for professional use, we're at a farmer's market, and these guys have been using the machine more than I have. That's why I don't have my machine because I lent them to use the YOU. Also, we need to shout out Voltage Coffee Supply for allowing this to happen. You can use this discount code I'll put on the screen if you're interested in buying the YOU, but we just want to go over the YOU when it comes to professional usage, what's been good about it, what's been bad about it, and all of that. But these guys have been using the machine every week now for the past however many weeks, and it's been holding up, and we definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah, so my name is Ming. My wife and I, Mabel, run Moonwake coffee roasters. And yeah, we do a farmer's market every Sunday where we pop up and try to showcase our coffee in many different forms. So yeah, huge shout out to Brian for letting us borrow his YOU. It's been a lifesaver having multiple machines. We've gotten a decent amount of customers, so yeah.
All right, I mean, you guys might probably know me already. I'm Harry. I, help them out. I'm also their coffee innovation director. Okay, I help them out with gear suggestions and stuff, really. But yeah, I'm here every Sunday, helping out, serving coffee.
I definitely want to start with different parts, but aesthetics and form factor wise for commercial usage, we're actually a huge fan of it. We have this like kind of sunken in platform with an elevated bar, and this sort of like the shape that it has and the form factor fits perfectly and has like a very modern aesthetic. I was a little jarred and turned off by it at first, but to be honest, it's like very fitting for any modern coffee setting, I feel like,
Great.
compared to some old equipment.
Be able to talk to your customers in front of you while you're working.
Yeah, and it's like slim, so it doesn't like take up too much room on your bar, at least compared to like something like a GS3, which definitely has like a fatter footprint. Yeah, clearly a lot of polish. I think the customers can immediately recognize like good quality.
So I handle a lot of espresso on this. Going back to back shots, it's, I just press the button for the most part, and then it'll pull the shot to the output that I set it to. Typically, it's just like a 9-bar flat. It'll get the output. I've measured the output a couple of times. It gets it within like 3 grams of out. So that's pretty consistent for, especially when we're just using this for, a lot of milk drinks. The steam is pretty good. I really like the angle is pretty standard, 3-hole tip. It's a little less strong than I would say like GS3 that we are normally used to, but it still does give commercial quality steaming capabilities.
Yeah, I think like usage-wise, it definitely fits our need pretty well. I think there's definitely some usability issues once you start to push the volume a bit. We're doing somewhere around 150 drinks a day, but compressed to mostly around 3 hours or so during like peak hours. And with the Sanremo YOU, at least for the US like 110 volt model, you kind of have to pick like whether you want to prioritize the steam or you want to prioritize brewing. And each kind of has its drawbacks that you have to work with. We tried prioritizing brew to begin with, but our steam suffered. We're running like slightly hotter shots, like the group head and the brew boiler set at 94.5. And that meant like the steam rarely recovered. We've since switched to steam priority, which has actually helped a ton. It's not the biggest boiler, but it has a 1500 watt element, I think. And so it actually recovers very quickly. So I think like steam wise is actually not bad. It is a bit slower.
You literally have to pick and choose what you want for it to prioritize.
Right. And I think as a result, like some of the shot during like peak usage, you will start to see some temperature stability issues if you're prioritizing steam. Like we have some, I think up to like 5 degrees worst case for like brew boiler drops, and then group head temperature swings also quite a bit once you have a lot of back-to-back volume.
That's like over at least 5 or 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like it's after 5 to 10 minutes where it starts dipping kind of drastically like that.
Yeah, and then it just needs some time to recover. But At least like the readout is pretty clear, so you know like if you're in a state where you need to wait a bit before pulling the next shot. I think the volumetrics have been pretty solid for the most part.
Yeah, 2 to 3 grams out from like, set the program, and then pulling back to back, trying to be with consistent puck prep. It's been about measured three plus or minus 3 grams.
Yeah, and I guess it's a lot easier to do this than paddle on profile paddle every single time to get the consistent shot. Is like you've been able to program all of that in here, so that's really good. But yeah, I mean, at home you're probably never going to run into any of these problems, right? Like we're talking professional use, you're using the machine back to back, right? So like how many drinks would you say is the limit of like when you're finding that there's problems?
I think we have some data on it, so we can definitely get a more accurate number, but I want to say it's like 6 to 8 drinks in is when you start seeing issues normally.
So
Yeah, and it depends on like how close they are. And I will also say in like a professional setting like this, it's not typically one person manning the machine either. So we have somebody who's pulling shots, we have somebody else who's like steaming at the same time, potentially a little staggered, like depending how close those two line up.
We're definitely pushing it in terms of max usage.
Yeah, I think maybe the other thing worth commenting on is a little bit of like the user interface and like the UX of it. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, like we were talking about this earlier, is these buttons are a little less responsive, like than you would think.
Yeah.
Like the hitbox is a little off.
Yeah, and if your fingers are wet, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta make sure. Well, this is the thing with the integrated display.
Yeah. One thing that was kind of funny is that we have our profile set to 3, and you can easily actually accidentally hit manual pull instead, and that's happened on bar before.
Yeah.
And then you like expect it to pull your profile, and then you walk away, and now you have like 90 grams out.
Yeah, I think. There's definitely a lot you can change on the UI, and hopefully we see some really cool iterations to make that easier. But like for a commercial setting, like there's things that are definitely your main touch points that you're interacting with 99% of the time. Those are your like set profiles, right? And so like having those be much larger on the screen is definitely like what you would want commercial setting. Like a lot of this data isn't super useful, like shot to shot or drink to drink. Having a consistent, like you don't have to be super precise when you're in a busy setting is really critical to make that succeed.
But there is another touch point that I wanted to point out, was sometimes that this paddle was like, see, it's not turning on, but there's like a learning curve in terms of where that paddle actuates too. And I've gotten used to it because I use it at Brian's a lot, but then like coming here, people were like, I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta hold on to it a little bit.
I think it's another difference in like a commercial setting versus home, where like home you're kind of relaxed, you're like you can interact with things in a more slow way, but in a commercial setting like everything is
it's like you want to touch it.
You want things to be like immediately reactive. You want to just flip something and it works, and then you can continue.
Yeah, but like that automation does reduce a lot of pressure for you guys, or
Right.
Yeah,
It
100%.
definitely does.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on bar with both of these a lot of the times. I've also been on bar where we only have the GS3. I would be able to pull shots consecutively without worrying about this one, and then I'll monitor this one because this has a good profile, like be able to do the profile for it.
Sorry.
what kinds of shots are you guys pulling right now? Or like, what's like your profile on?
So we're pulling just like your standard flat 9 bar 1 to 2, and we're only doing that. There's other preferences, but because we will have a GS3 alongside that, we want to be able to match the shot profile in both machines.
I think the only difference is for decaf, we'll usually do like a manual paddle profile, which just has a little bit of pre-infusion before we ramp up to 9 bar.
Well, that's good. Well, it's good that you're pointing out the paddle profile. It's just like we have cases where we have this decaf that is, some people sometimes order, but we're not necessarily. It might be dialed in a little differently, or it might be an extra a couple of days where we haven't done a dial in, so it might be a little off. But with a manual paddle, we can kind of control the profile.
Yeah, so you have
do
all
it-
the different profiles set up for your coffees.
Yeah, and we can do things dynamically too. Like, and sometimes well, if as a home enthusiast, right, it's great when you can just like take any single origin to it and then pull it with a manual profile, so you can have less bad shots.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the U is good for home, but obviously if you're doing a bigger volume setup like this, it's gonna struggle a little because the boiler is small. But I think I have seen some shops they just use this for like single origin or like their fancier coffees.
Right. And that's probably because you have the paddle, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
otherwise. GS3 still kind of king of the farmers market.
Yeah, no, but it's a great supplement. When this got on bar, it was great to use and have alongside with the GS3 for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic start. I think with some like software updates, it could be, quite a bit better too. So it's exciting to see machines like this. Definitely like doing the paddle manually and then having it replicate the shot back to back is a very standard commercial feature that's used on some of the bigger 2-3 group machines. And so it's, very nearly there in terms of like workflow wise to service. And yeah. GS3 still has some big advantages in a couple of different areas, but yeah, working together, I feel like it's actually a pretty nice pairing.
Yeah, it is really good.
Yeah, but yeah, which one makes better coffee?
Ooh. What's your opinion?
I haven't done the side by side, so it's hard to tell. And it's like I pull like their like the Wilton lager yeast on this guy, but I don't do it on that one because I'm not sure if I'm dialed in because we don't normally serve that, so we don't really dial in like something nice like the Wilton.
Yeah, I will say it's way easier to use the paddle to do that. Like if you're dialing in a crazier profile, like it's very easy. Like there's a little bit of response lag depending on how this one works, like without the gear pump. But this one is immediate, but it's very finicky.
I see. Yeah, so you guys actually like that paddle a little more, the electric paddle.
Oh yeah, I
You like
I like the EP, but
Well, it's tough. I don't know. There's something visceral about this, like driving a stick shift car. Like this is like maybe your dual clutch. Like there's a little bit of disconnect there. I don't know. It's hard to put them side by side and compare it.
Yeah.
I will say I've tried pulling the same shots side by side, and I have slightly preferred the GS3, and at least in my like very few blind triangulations, like this one just had a bit more brightness, which actually I would prefer for like the Wilton lager. But for our more like medium roast, the like higher body shot, like this had a bit more sweetness and body, and so it was better for that.
The Marzocco machines are really good at what it's built for, right? There's just more of the traditional.
Yeah, but this was you could serve all your special coffees on this, and it'll taste good, and you have all the profiles.
Yeah, it can do a bit of everything.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of show off this setup. People have been asking where the machine's gone, and it's been here, and they're using it for professional use. So it kind of saved the day when their GS3 was having a little problems. But yeah, obviously, it's a beautiful machine, but for high volume commercial, you do need to consider like there are definitely some downsides of this, but it's kind of jack of all trades in that sense.
Right,
but
it's literally marketed for like high-end home use, sometimes commercial, right? Something like that.
you could totally get away with lower volume when you got 150 drinks across a few hours, like 1 to 2, 3 hours is rough. So
to me, it's like the multi-tool of espresso machines. It can do definitely everything, but maybe not if you're just trying to do one thing like back to back to back through the whole day.
but it's cool, like you can put it in most situations. It'll do okay.
It's saved our life, so huge shout out to Brian for that, because we would have died with just the GS3.
Shout out for Voltage.
Yeah, also shout out to
Voltage.
also shout out Voltage.
They've supported us a little bit. We were trying to figure out.
Yeah, Voltage has they technical support, all of that. Definitely want to shout out Voltage as well. So yeah, it's been a great help for just helping this business out, and also giving us a lot of support on the machine. So I want to thank Voltage for stepping in there and providing the support. There you go. Quick thoughts on Sanremo YOU for pro usage. Want to thank Harry and Ming for talking about it. They've been using it every single week, so There we go. And check out Moonwake as well. And thank you, Voltage. All right, bye.